Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a guide for the nation of Norway in EU4 1.34. But before this video begins, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, as your support helps out the channel tremendously. And now let's jump into Norway. The nation of Norway is a nation located in Scandinavia. You actually start out as a junior partner under Denmark at the start of the game. However, do not let that discourage you, as Norway is actually one of the most powerful colonizers in 1.34, pretty much as powerful as Portugal and England. You can start colonizing the New World super early, and that is due primarily to your amazing mission tree. The Norwegian mission tree has been completely revamped in 1.34. It used to have basically nothing, and now it is absolutely amazing. It's just as in-depth as the Swedish mission tree and focuses largely on colonies as well as playing tall with a massive colonial empire. In this guide, I'm going to show you how to take Norway from being a small or insignificant nation under Denmark to ruling all of Scandinavia, controlling basically the entire Lubeck trade node as well as the North Sea trade node, and how to funnel trade from the New World and from Africa and beyond. The Norwegian ideas are absolutely amazing and are focused largely on colonialism and your economy. So this mission here gives us extra colonial range and allows you to recruit explorers and conquistadors. Basically, you can recruit explorers and conquistadors for free. Essentially, you don't have to take exploration ideas. So as other nations have to take exploration ideas to do this, you don't. You can take a mill idea, you could take whatever you want, and as long as you complete this, you'll be able to not only start colonizing, but also get explorers and conquistadors much earlier than, let's say, someone like France or England. Along with this amazing first one, we also get Pioneer Spirit, which gives us a free colonist. Again, these Norwegian ideas are absolutely fantastic for colonizing. We get plus 20% morale of navies, minus 10% ship costs, plus 10% global trade power, plus 10% production efficiency, and 2.5% discipline, which is a interesting amount of discipline. I don't know why they didn't make it 5, but okay. And plus 1 yearly prestige. And for our traditions, we give plus 25% sailor modifier and plus 10% ship durability. And when you finish all these ideas, you get plus 20% trade steering, which is one of the most powerful trade modifiers in the game. But before we do all that, it's time to first break free from Denmark. And the way you want to do that is see who Denmark is rival to. Oftentimes they'll rival England, a lot of the times Poland or Lithuania, so see who they are rival to and start improving with those nations. In my game, the Danish are rival to Scotland. However, Scotland doesn't like me since they want these provinces here that I have, so I don't think they'll support me. So I'm just going to improve with England and Burgundy. Honestly, you really just need one ally. You don't need anyone else really supporting you. England is enough, or Poland. Just ask whoever you can. As you can see here, England will support me right off the bat. Do keep in mind though that if England gets into the surrender of main event war, they likely won't be of much help to you here in this independence war. But regardless, ask them to support you, as we need it to complete this mission right here, Norwegian allies. As Norway, we actually have 2 unique privileges given out to our states. You have Danish nobility, which is absolutely terrible, and nobles court, which is not as bad but also quite terrible. I'll show you how to revoke these a bit later in the game. But for the burghers, we're going to give out land of commerce and indebted to the burgher, as well as private trade fleet. For the nobility, you just want to give out primacy of the nobility. These privileges here are already giving them a bunch of influence and giving us all of these really bad modifiers, so just give them out 1 privilege. We're not going to give out these other ones here, increased levies or aristocratic counselors, until we revoke these 2 privileges. For the clergy, you want to give out religious diplomat, and that's it, as we don't have enough crown land, so you'll need to choose. Do you want to give out a diplo point? Do you want to give out a mill point? It's honestly up to you. However, I chose these 2 just because I need the mill point, and I think the diplo point is going to be important, especially if you have to be reducing war exhaustion. And make sure you summon the diet. Ideally, you'd want to complete an agenda of the nobility or the burghers so that you can complete this mission here, please the burghers, in the case of the burghers, or for the nobility so you can start revoking these privileges. In my case, the burghers want me to have less than 1 loan. I won't be able to do that as Denmark is extremely poor, so I'm not going to choose this one. Instead, I'm going to choose the middle one right here for the nobility. If Sweden becomes rebellious, which they almost always do, and they offer you an alliance, make sure that you accept it, as we want the Swedish help to fight the dynasty, especially if the allies that you have are not particularly good. Like in my case, England is okay. However, if they're fighting France, they won't be super helpful. And Burgundy is also not too great. And Scotland won't even help. So I've technically really only have 1.5 people supporting me. So Sweden does offer you an alliance. Make sure that you accept it, especially if your allies supporting you are not that good. Do keep in mind, though, that right after the independence war, we are going to break that alliance with Sweden as we want to expand into their provinces. And once you have these criterias met, you can go ahead and complete this mission called Forts of the North. It gives these fantastic modifiers here, plus 15% fort defense and minus 75% fort maintenance. You also get a fort defense guy for 50% off. Speaking of advisors, you really can only afford one advisor as Norway, so see who you can hire. Ideally, you will want to hire a improved relations or diplo rep guy. I can't, since he's only level 2, so I'm not going to hire them. I'm just instead going to hire the half off guy that I got from my mission. And while you're improving with potential people to support your independence, start working on this mission here called Expand the Military. You want to have at least one general and your army size 100% of force limit. So for that, just go ahead and of course recruit a general and just hire the free company here. Once you build your army up to force limit and have at least one general, you can go ahead and complete this mission called Expand the Military. However, we will take that to maximize it as much as possible. We'll take that right when the war with Denmark starts. And once you have Norwegian rivals with at least 100% opinion of you, you can complete this mission called Norwegian Allies. Basically, it gives you options here of what to ask them. This one asks those people that you improved with to support you for independence. This one will just ask them for manpower. This one will ask them for money. This will give you all these modifiers. However, keep in mind you only get this if you are fighting alone. So you can't be allied to Sweden if they offer to. You can't have the English, you can't have the Scottish, you can't have everyone. And this bottom one, you just choose not to do it. If you want to fight by yourself, which you can if you're a more experienced player, then take this one, of course. However, I'd recommend for everyone else to take the top option. And as you can see, Burgundy didn't help us, England didn't help. However, England actually did help us and still is helping us because we asked them manually. We asked them to support independence. Since they were able to do it day one, Burgundy won't support us as they can't even get to Denmark, so it's no big deal. So once you have allies and once you've built up to force limit, or maybe you don't have any allies, it's time to attack Denmark. They are normally not allied to anyone big. As you can see here, they really don't have too many people. We have England and Sweden on our side. It shouldn't be too hard. So go ahead and attack Denmark or your independence war. If you have this modifier here called good relations, where if you declare the war, you would lose 2 stability instead of 1. To get around that, go here and just send a scornful insult to Denmark. It'll not only make their potential enemies like you more, but it will also get rid of that modifier where you have good relations. So now it's time to declare our independence war against Denmark. Don't worry about losing a stab. We'll stab up very quickly. And once you complete this mission called Norwegian Allies and expand the military, make sure that you click this mission called Liberty for Norway. Basically, you will get back the stab that you lost, as well as you will get claims here on Scania and parts of Sweden. For your peace deal with Denmark, you want to take something like this. Of course, tell them to grant you independence. That's a no-brainer. And try to take these provinces down here. You do get claims on these provinces right here from your mission tree. So make sure that you take these provinces that you have claims on. See if you can take some money, as you probably have quite a few loans like I have. In my case, the war actually did not go too well. Sweden actually peaced out and Denmark took provinces from them, so they're still a junior partner. Regardless of how your peace deal goes, make sure that you get independence and try to get as many provinces down here as possible. Oh, and this war that I'm in right now against Burgundy, England just called me in it for some reason. Once you become independent as Norway, see who you can ally. Ideally, you try to ally Austria and Poland, or perhaps Bohemia if you can't ally Austria. At the moment, I'm not able to ally Austria, Poland, or Bohemia. However, I can ally Brandenburg right off the bat, so I'm going to go ahead and ally them and keep improving with Austria and Poland. Once you become independent, the next thing that you want to start doing is start spying on Novgorod. If Novgorod was your ally in your war against Denmark for independence, of course, break that alliance. However, we want to attack Novgorod before the Muscovites come back and either vassalize or just annex Novgorod so we can continue expanding into Muscovy and cut them off. off. If you get this event called Bergen Riots, you're actually going to lose stability as well, I believe. And honestly, I'd recommend this one. I don't know if this event chain continues down if you select this one. However, I don't have that much money to lose, so I'm just going to choose the top option. If you get this event here with the fortress, I recommend choosing the middle option. It costs more money, but you get mill power and you get 5,000 manpower. It also gives a plus 10% fort defense. This one will just give you a fort here, which is fine. This is not a bad fort. However, this one will give you fort defense across your whole nation, as well as the manpower, which you will desperately need. So I recommend taking the middle option. As soon as you can, you want to start working on this mission called the Fleet of Norway, where you need either 5 heavy ships or at least 8 light ships. I recommend building the light ships as they are easier and you already start out with 4 or even more. I just have less because the Danish killed them. And once that happens, I'll show you what you can do with this mission. And once your spy network is finished being built up on Novgorod, you can go ahead and attack them. They usually won't have any ally. In my game, they're just allied to Odoyev. So as soon as you can, attack Novgorod before the Muscovites completely annex them. For your first government reform as Norway, I recommend taking curtail noble privileges. Now, normally you don't want to take this as tax revenue is absolutely terrible. However, we need to get rid of these awful privileges that come with the nobility, namely nobles, court, and Danish nobility. And the quickest way to do that is do curtail noble privileges since they lose influence. So for your tier 2 government reform as Norway, take curtail noble privileges. For your peace deal with Novgorod, I recommend just vassalizing them, especially if they are really small like they are in my game. And as you can see here, Muscovy has a bunch of the Novgorodian cores, so I'm just going to go ahead and vassalize them. That'll probably be like that for you in your game as well. So just take them as a vassal. It will cost you quite a bit of Diplo and AE, but it is worth it as we want all of these cores here that the Muscovites have. For your rivals as Norway, go ahead and of course rival Denmark and rival whoever else that you can. You might be able to rival Sweden if Sweden is independent in your game, but they're not in mine. They're still a junior partner under Denmark, although they are disloyal. So I'm just going to rival Scotland. And by this point in the game, your truce with Denmark should be over, should have ended a little bit before this. So go ahead and attack them. See which claims that you have. Once you're at peace and once you have completed this mission, Liberty for Norway, and won your independence, you can go ahead and complete this mission called Win Our Independence. Ideally, you want to wait to take it until your next war with Denmark. The reason you want to avoid taking it to your next war with Denmark is you actually get a Restoration of Union CB on Denmark. So if you want to use that, you can go ahead and wait until your original truce from the Independence War is over. You also get some claims on the rest of the Scandinavia region, the Highlands, which is Scotland, and some of those islands there. So go ahead and take this mission, Win Our Independence. So after you have completed this mission here, it's time for you to attack Denmark for the Restoration of Union. You might want to take some provinces. However, if you want to progress down this very nice custom Norwegian mission tree, then I recommend first PUing Denmark instead of taking the provinces outright. See how many allies that you can call in. Ideally, you'd want to call in as many allies as possible so that they can help you out. However, I can only call in Poland and Brandenburg, so I'm going to declare on Denmark. When you get this event as Norway called a strategic marriage, basically you can choose to give the Orkney Islands and the islands over here to Scotland for 200 ducats and you get a royal marriage with Scotland, or you can choose to not do that and you get a permanent claim on those islands. I'd recommend taking this one since we don't want to give lands to our rival who is Scotland. We want to actually attack Scotland to take all of their provinces. So select the bottom option. So for your peace deal with Denmark, what you want to take is of course make Denmark in a union with you, and if for some reason you have the instance like in my game where Sweden actually stayed under Denmark, then you can go ahead and take some provinces from them. I'm just going to take these provinces like here, specifically the Dallas Kogan monument, since I like having this monument and you make quite a bit of money from it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this here, take Denmark as a union, take these provinces. I checked to see if I could get some money. Denmark basically has no money. So take a union with Denmark. Do keep in mind that it will be quite a bit of aggressive expansion. The union alone is about 50 AE. However, since I have absolutely no aggressive expansion with people in the HRE, it doesn't really matter. However, do keep in mind that if you are fighting the Swedes or expanding over here, you might need to wait a few years before you take this peace deal. For your Tier 3 government reform as Norway, I recommend taking Expanded Royal Court. You can take this one if you took exploration ideas for whatever reason, however we haven't, so I'm going to take Expanded Royal Court. For your first idea group as Norway, you really should take something that either improves your economy or your manpower. You can take exploration if you really want to, however keep in mind you probably won't be able to afford a colony, number one, and number two, we already get things that you get in these idea groups anyway. You get recruitment of explorers and conquistadors, and you get a colonist, so you really don't need exploration ideas as Norway. So for your first idea group, I recommend taking quantity ideas. We desperately need help with our manpower. As Norway, your lands are very underdeveloped, so you don't gain a lot of manpower compared to, let's say, Denmark or even Sweden, so take quantity ideas. While you are waiting, after you've done your war with Denmark and Novgorod, see if you can attack Scotland. In my game, unfortunately, Scotland is guaranteed by France. A lot of times they'll be guaranteed, sometimes even allied with France, so I can't attack them without calling France in, but always keep a lookout to see when you can attack Scotland, especially with the help of your ally England if you're still allied to them. Once you have your nobility estate, once your nobility estate has higher loyalty than influence, you can revoke one of these privileges. The first privilege that I recommend that you revoke, the Nobles Court. I recommend you revoke the Nobles Court, as this one, yes, the yearly corruption is bad and you lose some tax and things like that, and they're exempt from seized land. However, Nobles Court is worse because you lose legitimacy for yourself and you also lose legitimacy from your heir. They're both really bad. However, I recommend taking away Nobles Court first. Do keep in mind that you will have to fight some rebels and you will lose some stability. Once you build up either 5 heavy ships or 8 light ships, you can complete this mission called the Fleet of Norway. It actually gives you a very flavorful event, and I'll show you right here. Basically, you discover the North Atlantic region and Greenland very early. You can discover this a lot earlier in the game. I just didn't because I forgot about it and I was busy fighting the war, but you can discover this as early as the 1450s very easily. So look at that. I mean, really nice. Oh, and some of you all might be wondering, maybe you've commented in the comments, I don't know, why I'm not attacking Scotland even though they keep getting eaten up by England. Basically what England is doing is Scotland is being dumb and keep allying Irish miners. They finally stop doing it, and as such they get called in the defensive war against the English, and the English just peace out the Scottish and take a bunch of stuff. So that's why they keep getting eaten up, but the English don't have to fight France, and that's why I can't do it, because if I have to attack the Scottish directly, and I can't do that because they're allied to the French and no one will help me. So that's why the Scottish keep getting smaller and smaller, even though England never fights France. And like for the first one, once your nobility has more loyalty than influence, go ahead and revoke the last Danish nobility privilege. By this point in the game, you probably should be revoking your last one. Do keep in mind, however, that you will need to fight rebels and you will lose a stability. So do keep that in mind. So make sure that your army maintenance is up and go ahead and revoke it. And once you revoke the final Danish nobility privilege, you can complete this mission called Expel Danish Nobility. It's actually a really good mission. Look at that. The nobility loses 10% of land, you gain legitimacy, you lose unrest, you get a parliament, which is very nice, quite a lot of flavor, and some legitimacy and things like that. So definitely take this mission. It's very flavorful. And once you complete Expel Danish Nobility, you will be able to take this mission called Norway Denmark. It gives the event called the Crown of Denmark, and you don't need to wait until Tech 20, Advent Tech 20 to form Scandinavia. That is absolutely massive, because before 1.34, you used to have to wait until Tech 20 to form Scandinavia, and they didn't even have unique ideas. In 1.34, now they have unique ideas, and as Norway, you can actually form them really early. So look at this here. Basically, you get this event, and Norway loses 50% desire, and you get these permanent modifiers, minus 15% advisor costs, plus 1 advisors, and plus 10% national nobility loyalty equilibrium. This is such a good event. Honestly, after playing all of the Scandinavian nations for these guides, I will say that I do think that the most flavorful of all the Scandinavian nations is Norway. You are the weakest Scandinavian nation of them all by far. However, the flavor within these mission trees like this one is just so good. So I think Norway is definitely the most flavorful Scandinavian nation in 1.34. And now that you've taken those Danish estate privileges privileges away from the nobility. If you want, you can go ahead and give out increased levies. For your first splendor idea as Norway, I recommend taking higher developed colonies. You are going to be colonizing very early in the game, so I recommend taking higher developed colonies. If for some reason you don't want to colonize, which you should because that's the whole point of Norway, then go ahead and take justified wars. However, I recommend taking higher developed colonies. And once you complete at least 2 estate agendas from the burghers, you can complete this mission called Please the Burghers, and it gives a special privilege for them, which I'll show you in just a moment. Basically, this privilege that they get is called Mountain Expansion, and it reduces the dev cost from deving in mountain provinces by 50%. So our capital, for example, is woods, but this province is a mountain, right? So local dev cost is plus 35%. So that privilege basically gets rid of that and gives you an additional discount. So make sure you take this as soon as possible. It does give them quite a bit of influence, but also quite a bit of loyalty, but don't worry about that. Make sure that you give them this privilege. For your second idea group as Norway, you should take economic ideas. This is a very common combination that people like to take, economic and quantity. It has been nerfed in 1.34, however, it still is a good combination to take just because as Norway, your provinces are, well, terrible. No offense to any Norwegian viewers, of course, but they're not great. So you should take economic just to strengthen up your provinces and dev them. So by this point in the game, your nation should look a little bit something like this. As Norway, we were able to break free from Denmark and PU, both Denmark and Sweden. Along with that, we also fought Novgorod and were able to vassalize them. If Novgorod is small and they do still exist, go ahead and vassalize them. Your alliance network should also look something like this. I actually dropped the English for the French since the French would ally me and the English were going to take these Scottish provinces anyway, so might as well have the French to help me. In fact, the English actually have a lot of my claims. So as you continue along your game, of course, you're going to fight Scotland, but likely England or even Great Britain, depending on who controls these provinces here that you have claims on. You, of course, will fight Muscovy at some point. Even if you didn't annex Novgorod, you will probably have to fight Muscovy, as you want to prevent Muscovy from forming Russia, as Russia will be much more powerful than you, and you will have to contend with them, especially for trade coming in from Siberia. So go ahead and destroy Muscovy as soon as possible and prevent them from forming Russia. For our first 2 idea groups, we took quantity ideas and economic ideas, a very well-known combination. We needed quantity since our manpower was absolutely abysmal, and economic to make these Norwegian provinces a lot better. For your third idea group as Norway, you could probably go ahead and take expansion ideas. Then from expansion ideas, you can go ahead and take trade. You really don't need exploration because you are already gaining those things from exploration here, a colonist and colonial range in your idea groups. So you really don't need exploration since these 2 would basically be wasted. Well, not the colonists, but this one, but the first one would be wasted. So I recommend taking expansion ideas for your third idea group, and then from your fourth idea group, trade. And then for the rest of them, of course, you can just choose whatever you want and tailor it to how your game progresses. The Norwegian mission tree is absolutely amazing. A lot of flavor, a lot of things that you can do. Your mission tree takes you into Africa, it takes you into the New World, it takes you into these things where you can maybe go Catholic or maybe go Protestant or even Reform. So a lot of these missions are extremely powerful. Even this thing here, this mission here will actually allow you to spawn copper and iron in these provinces that are highlighted. So that's very powerful. And overall, a very nice mission tree. Like I said, the Norwegian mission tree is probably one of the most flavorful in Scandinavia, even more flavorful than Sweden, in my opinion. This is what we took for our first 3 government reforms. We got this through our mission tree. For tier 4, if you plan on staying a Catholic Norway, then take lands for the church. However, if not, and you plan on going Protestant, then take curtail clerical privileges. For tier 5, take meritocratic recruitment. For tier 6, take general estate. For tier 7, take this one here. For tier 8, take this one here. For tier 9, if you're struggling with GovCap, then take L'État c'est moi. However, if you're not, then just take Divine Right. And for tier 10, take Right to Petition. This has been a guide for the nation of Norway in EU4 1.34. Don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, as I'm trying to reach 500 subscribers by the end of the week. And I know with your support, we are able to do it. And let me know in the comments down below what other nation that I should do a guide on. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.